12. Thus, the unfortunate man, unsuccessful in maintaining his family members, is bereft of all beauty. He also thinks of his failure, grieving very deeply. Okay, there's no purport on that. So, text 13. Seeing him unable to support them, his wife and others do not treat him with the same respect as before, even as miserly farmers do not accord the same treatment to their old and worn out oxen. Whoa. Okay, translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Just 1 second. Okay, so seeing him unable to support them, his wife and others do not treat him with the same respect as before, even as miserly farmers do not accord the same treatment to their old and worn out oxen. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Not only in the present age, but from time immemorial, no one has liked an old man who is unable to earn in the family. Even in the modern age, in some communities or states, the old men are given poison so that they will die as soon as possible. In some cannibalistic communities, the old grandfather is sportingly killed, and a feast is held in which his body is eaten. Horrible. The example is given that a farmer is not like an old bull who has ceased to work. Similarly, when an attached person in family life becomes old and is unable to earn, he is no longer liked by his family, sons, daughters, and other kinsmen, and he is consequently neglected. What to speak of not being given respect? It is judicious, therefore, to give up family attachment before one attains old age and takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should employ himself in the Lord's service so that the Supreme Lord can take charge of him and he will not be neglected by his so-called kinsmen. Okay. Text number 14. The foolish family man does not become averse to family life, although he is maintained by those whom he once maintained. Deformed by the influence of old age, he prepares himself to meet ultimate death. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Family attraction is so strong that even if one is neglected by family members in his old age, he cannot give up family affection, and he remains at home just like a dog. In the Vedic way of life, one has to give up family life when he is strong enough. It is advised that before getting too weak and being baffled in material activities, and before becoming diseased, one should give up family life and engage oneself completely in the service of the Lord for the remaining days of his life. It is enjoined, therefore, in the Vedic scriptures that as soon as one passes 50 years of age, he must give up family life and live alone in the forest. After preparing himself fully, he should become a sannyasi and a sannyasi to distribute the knowledge of spiritual life to each and every home. So he becomes an itinerant yogi and distributes knowledge of spiritual life to each and every home. Harivilas. Text 15. Thus he remains at home just like a pet dog and eats whatever is so negligently given to him, afflicted with many illnesses such as dyspepsia, and loss of appetite. He eats only very small morsels of food and he becomes an invalid who cannot work anymore. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Before meeting death, one is sure to become a diseased invalid. And when he is neglected by his family members, his life becomes less than a dog's because he is put into so many miserable conditions. Vedic literatures enjoin, therefore, that before the arrival of such miserable conditions, one should leave home and die without the knowledge of his family members. If a man leaves home and dies without his family's knowing, that is considered to be a glorious death. But an attached family man wants his family members to carry him in a great procession even after his death. And although he will not be able to see how the procession goes, he still desires that his body be taken gorgeously in procession. Thus, he is happy without even knowing where he has to go when he leaves his body for the next life. Wow, what a horrible situation that is. Text 16. In that disease condition, one's eyes bulge due to the pressure of air from within, and his glands become congested with mucus. He has difficulty breathing, and upon exhaling and inhaling, he produces a sound like gura gura, a rattling within the throat. Text 17. In this way, he comes under the clutches of death and lies down, surrounded by lamenting friends and relatives. And although he wants to speak with them, he no longer can because he is under the control of time. Purport by Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. For formality's sake, when a man is lying on his deathbed, his relatives come to him, and sometimes they cry very loudly, addressing the dying man, "Oh, my father, oh, my friend," or "Oh, my husband." In that pitiable condition, the dying man wants to speak with them and instruct them of his desires, but because he is fully under the control of the time factor, meaning death, he cannot express himself, and that causes him inconceivable pain. He is already in a painful condition because of disease, and his glands and throat are choked up with mucus. He is already in a very difficult position, and when he is addressed by his relatives in that way, his grief increases. Okay, well, difficult life. Text 18. Thus, the man who engaged with uncontrolled senses in maintaining a family dies in great grief, seeing his relatives crying. He does most.
He dies.
Huh?
He dies.
Yeah, he dies most pathetically in great pain and without consciousness. Oh, that's terrible. without consciousness. That means it's going to have a horrible death. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that at the time of death, one will be absorbed in the thoughts which he cultivated during his lifetime. A person who had no other idea than to properly maintain his family members must have family affairs in his last thoughts. That is the natural sequence for a common man. The common man does not know the destiny of his life. He is simply busy in his flash of life, maintaining his family. At the last stage, no one is satisfied with how he has improved the family economic condition. Everyone thinks that he could not provide sufficiently. Because of his deep family affection, he forgets his main duty of controlling the senses and improving his spiritual consciousness. Sometimes a dying man entrusts the family affairs to either his son or some relative, saying, I am going, please look after the family. He does not know where he is going, but even at the time of death, he is anxious about how his family will be maintained. Sometimes it is seen that a dying man requests the physician to increase his life at least for a few years so that the family maintenance plan, which he had begun, can be completed. These are the material diseases of the conditioned soul. He completely forgets his real engagement to become Krishna conscious and is always serious about planning to maintain his family. Although he changes families one after another. Text number 19. At death, he sees the messengers of the Lord of Death come before him, their eyes full of wrath, and in great fear he passes stool and urine. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. There are two kinds of transmigration of a living entity after passing away from the present body. One kind of transmigration is to go to the controller of sinful activities, who is known as Yamaraja, and the other is to go to the higher planets, up to Vaikuntha. Here, Lord Kapila describes how persons engaged in activities of sense gratification to maintain a family are treated by the messengers of Yamaraja, called Yamadutas. At the time of death, the Yamadutas become custodians of those persons who have strongly gratified their senses. They take charge of the dying man and take him to the planet where Yamaraj resides. The condition there is described in the following verses. Okay. Text 20. As a criminal is arrested for punishment by the constables of the state, a person engaged in criminal sense gratification is similarly arrested by the Yamadutas, who bind him by the neck with strong rope and cover his subtle body so that he may undergo severe punishment. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Every living entity is covered by a subtle and gross body. The subtle body is the covering of mind, ego, intelligence, and consciousness. It is said in the scriptures that the constables of Yamaraja cover the subtle body of the culprit and take him to the abode of Yamaraja to be punished in a way that he is able to tolerate. He does not die from his punishment, because if he died, then who would suffer the punishment?
Mm.
It is not the business of the constables of Yamaraj to put one to death. In fact, it is not possible to kill a living entity, because factually he is eternal. He simply has to suffer the consequences of his activities of sense gratification. The process of punishment is explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Formerly, the king's men would take a criminal in a boat in the middle of the river. They would dunk him by grasping a bunch of his hair and thrusting him completely underwater, and then he was almost suffocated. The king's constables would take him out of the water and allow him to breathe for some time, and then they would again dunk him in the water to suffocate. This sort of punishment is inflicted upon the forgotten soul by Yamaraja, as will be described in the following verses. Well, Yamaraja is really a tough guy.
That's probably why most of us are afraid of water.
Because what?
Most of us are afraid of water.
Oh,
because of those memories.
My God.
Probably sins we committed in the past.
Horrible. Text 21. While carried by the constables of Yamaraja, he is overwhelmed and trembles in their hands. While passing on the road, he is bitten by dogs, and he can remember the sinful activities of his life. He is thus terribly distressed. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It appears from this verse that while passing from this planet to the planet of Yamaraja, the culprit arrested by Yamaraja's constables meets with many dogs which bark and bite, just to remind him of his criminal activities of sense gratification. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that one becomes almost blind and is bereft of all sense when he is infuriated by the desire for sense gratification. He forgets everything. Jana. One is bereft of all intelligence when he is too attracted by sense gratification, and he forgets that he has to suffer the consequences also. Here, the chance for recounting his activities of sense gratification is given by the dogs engaged by Yamaraja. Here, the chance for recounting his activities of sense gratification is given by the dogs engaged by Yamaraja. So recounting means remembering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. While we live in the gross body, such activities of sense gratification are encouraged even by modern government regulations. In every state, all over the world, such activities are encouraged by the government in the form of birth control. Well, women are supplied pills, and they are allowed to go to a clinical laboratory to get assistance for abortions. This is going on as a result of sense gratification. Actually, sex life is meant for begetting a good child, but because people have no control over the senses, and there's no institution to train them to control the senses, the poor fellows fall victim to the criminal offenses of sense gratification, and they are punished after death, as described in these pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Well, yeah, today having an abortion is not a big deal anymore. You just go to the doctor and they will help you have an abortion. That, of course, is a very sinful thing. And because you're killing your own child, which is like unimaginable that someone would want to do that. But yeah, when people are addicted to sense gratification and they don't have control of their senses, then a woman will get pregnant and then she doesn't want to have the responsibility of taking care of the child. She'll just get a divorce. And there are some women that, have multiple, uh, uh, multiple, well, multiple times will kill their and the embryo of the child because they just don't want to have kids. On the other hand, they don't uh, give up having sex, or they will use different types of contraceptives to kill the embryo. So it's horrible uh, to think of killing your own baby. Of course, it's done in very well. They'll go. You can get an abortion where the child has not. It's not in its last stages of maturity before coming out of the womb. So usually it's when the baby is like still in the womb and it's only like 2 months or 4 months or 6 months uh, uh, of pregnancy that the abortion is done. Very late, uh, let's say, time of an abortion is more or less they try to avoid that. They want to abort the baby, if the mother is like a few months pregnant. Okay, so now what what we're hearing here is the nefarious and disgusting uh, uh, consequences of being a victim of sense gratification and also engaging in uh, what you would call criminal offenses of sense gratification. Criminal offenses, well, obviously, abortion is a criminal offense of sense gratification, and one is punished after death, as described in these pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 22. Under the scorching sun, the criminal has to pass through roads of hot sand with forest fires on both sides. He is whipped on the back by the constables because of his inability to walk, and he is afflicted by hunger and thirst. But unfortunately, there is no drinking water, no shelter, no place for rest on the road. Wow. You definitely don't want to go to Yamaraj's planet. It's terrible. Under the scorching sun, the criminal has to pass through roads of hot sand with forest fires on both sides. He is whipped on the back by the constables because of his inability to walk, and he is afflicted by hunger and thirst. But unfortunately, there is no drinking water, no shelter, and no place for rest on the road. While passing on that road to the abode of Yamaraj, he falls down in fatigue, and sometimes he becomes unconscious. But he is forced to rise again. In this way, he is very quickly brought to the presence of Yamaraja. Text 24. Thus, he has to pass 99,000 yojanas within 2 or 3 moments, and then he is at once engaged in the torturous punishment which he is destined to suffer. So Yojana, I'm not sure, I think it's uh, like 8, uh, I'm not sure. I think it's 8 miles, but I'm not sure. Purport by His Divine Grace. This is text 24. 1 yojana is calculated to be 8 miles. Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. 1 yojana is calculated to be 8 miles. And he has to pass along a road, which is therefore as much as 792,000 miles. Oh my God. So 8 into 792. Oh my God. That's long. Such a long distance is passed over within a few moments only. The subtle body is covered by the constables so that the living entity can pass such a long distance quickly and at the same time tolerate the suffering. That means you're fully conscious. So you really feel the pain. This covering, although material, is of such fine elements that the material scientists cannot discover that the coverings are made of. What the coverings are made of. To pass 792,000 miles within a few moments seems wonderful to the modern space travelers. They have so far traveled at a speed of 18,000 miles per hour. But here we see that a criminal passes 792,000 miles within a few seconds only, although the process is not spiritual but material. That's an amazing statement. I never read that before. Text 25. He is placed in the midst of burning pieces of wood. 1 second. And his limbs are set on fire. In such cases, he is made to eat his own flesh or have it eaten by others. Oh my God, this is terrible. It's getting worse and worse. From this verse, through the next 3 verses, the description of punishment will be narrated. The first prescription is that the criminal has to eat his own flesh, burning with fire, or allow others like himself who are present there to eat. In the last Great War, people in concentration camps sometimes ate their own stool. So there is no wonder that in the Yama Sadhana, the abode of Yamaraja, one who had a very enjoyable life, eating others' flesh, has to eat his own flesh. Oh my God. In other words, one who is a meat eater now has to eat his own flesh. Text number 26. His entrails are pulled out. That means like his intestines are pulled out by the hounds, mean dogs, and vultures of hell. Those are birds, meat-eating birds. Even though he is still alive to see it, and he is subjected to torment by serpents, scorpions, gnats, and other creatures that bite him. Text 27. Next, his limbs are lopped off and torn asunder by elephants. He is hurled down from hilltops, and he is also held captive, either in water or in a cave. The men and women whose lives were built upon indulgence in illicit sex life are put into many kinds of miserable conditions in the hells known as Tamisha, under Jamisha and Ro Rava. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Materialistic life is based on sex life. The existence of all the materialistic people who are undergoing severe tribulation in the struggle for existence is based on sex. Therefore, in the Vedic civilization, sex life is allowed only in a restricted way. It is for the married couple and only for begetting children. But when sex life is indulged in for sense gratification illegally and illicitly, both the man and the woman await severe punishment in this world or after death. In this world, also, they are punished by virulent diseases like syphilis and gonorrhea. And in the next life, as we see in this passage of Srimad Bhagavatam, they are put into different kinds of hellish conditions to suffer. In Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, illicit sex life is also very much condemned. And it is said that one who produces children by illicit sex life is sent to hell. It is confirmed here in the Bhagavatam that such offenders are put into the hellish conditions of life in Tamishra, Anda Tamishra, and Rurava. Oh my God. You see how dangerous illicit sex is. People don't understand. And you can get virulent diseases like syphilis and gonorrhea. And also, you can, what it says here, in Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, illicit sex life is also very much condemned. And it is said that one who produces children by illicit sex life is sent to hell. It is confirmed here in the Bhagavatam that such offenders are put into hellish conditions of life in Tamishra, Amritamisha, and Rorava. Okay. So, let me read this whole purport again because it's very, very informative. First of all, the verse, Canto 3, chapter 30, and verse number 28. Men and women whose lives are built upon indulgence in illicit sex life are put into many kinds of miserable conditions in the hells known as Tamishra, Anda Tamishra, and Rorava. Report by Srila Prabhupada. Materialistic life is based on sex life. The existence of all the materialistic people who are undergoing severe tribulation in the struggle for existence is based on sex. Therefore, in the Vedic civilization, sex life is allowed only in a restricted way. It is for the married couple and only for begetting children. But when sex life is indulged in for sense gratification, illegally and illicitly, both the man and the woman await severe punishment in this world or after death. In this world also they are punished by virulent diseases like syphilis and gonorrhea. And in the next life, as we see in this passage of Srimad Bhagavatam, they are put into different kinds of hellish conditions to suffer. In Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, illicit sex life is also very much condemned. And it is said that one who produces children by illicit sex life is sent to hell. It is confirmed here in the Bhagavatam that such offenders are put into hellish conditions of life in Tamishra, Anda Tamishra, and Rorava. Well, this is something that should be taught early on in life, especially before one becomes a teenager, or definitely when one is a teenager, because that's when most boys and girls begin illicit sex. Not everybody, but a lot. So they should understand all the severe repercussions of having illicit sex. That's why it says materialistic life is based on sex life. The existence of all the materialistic people who are undergoing severe tribulation in the struggle for existence is based on sex. In other words, you would not undergo severe tribulation in the struggle for existence if you control your sex life. But if it's not controlled, then you undergo all the severe tribulation, meaning suffering, in the struggle for existence. Therefore, in the Vedic civilization, sex life is allowed only in a restricted way. It is for the married couple and only for begetting children. But when sex life is indulged in
For sense.
for sense gratification, illegally and illicitly, both the man and the woman await severe punishment in this world or after death. In this world, also, they're punished by virulent diseases like syphilis and gonorrhea. And in the next life, as we see in this passage of Srimad Bhagavatam, they are put into different kinds of hellish conditions to suffer. In Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, illicit sex life is also very much condemned. And it is said that one who produces children by illicit sex life is sent to hell. It is confirmed here in the Bhagavatam that such offenders are put into hellish conditions of life in Tamishra, and under Tamishra, and Borava. Well, here's my Bhagavad Gita. Let's see what it says. In Bhagavad Gita, first chapter.
I think it's the first chapter, 32nd verse.
Let's take a look. Bhagavad Gita, first chapter. Okay, Bhagavad Gita, first chapter. First chapter. Okay. Right.
42nd verse.
Which one?
42nd. The other one.
By the evil deeds of those who destroy the family tradition and thus give rise to unwanted children, all kinds of community projects and family welfare activities are devastated. Purport: community projects for the four orders of human society, combined with family welfare activities, as they are set forth by the institution of Sanatana Dharma or Varnashrama Dharma, are designed to enable this human being to attain his ultimate salvation. Therefore, the breaking of the Sanatana Dharma tradition by irresponsible leaders of society brings about chaos in that society, and consequently people forget the aim of life, Krishna. Such leaders are called blind, and persons who follow such leaders are sure to be led into chaos. All right,
the next verse.
Yeah. O Krishna, maintainer of the people, I have heard by disciplic succession that those who destroy family traditions dwell always in hell. Arjuna bases his argument not on his own personal experience, but on what he has heard from the authorities. That is the way of receiving real knowledge. One cannot reach the real point of factual knowledge without being helped by the right person who is already established in that knowledge. There is a system in the Varnashram institution by which, before death, one has to undergo the process of atonement for his sinful activities. One who is always engaged in sinful activities must utilize the process of atonement called prayaschita. Without doing so, one surely will be transferred to hellish planets to undergo miserable lives as the result of sinful activities. Alas, how strange it is that we are preparing to commit greatly sinful acts, driven by the desire to enjoy royal happiness. We are intent on killing our own kinsmen. So, purport, driven by selfish motives, one may be inclined to such sinful acts as the killing of one's own brother, father, or mother. There are many such instances in the history of the world, but Arjuna, being a saintly devotee of the Lord, is always conscious of moral principles and therefore takes care to avoid such activities. Okay, well, anyway, the whole point is that illicit sex has a lot of problems. One will become subjected to many problems by having illicit sex. So better to give it up or not even begin to have illicit sex. That's what it says here in the purport today, Canto 3, Chapter 30, Text 28. Materialistic life is based on sex life. The existence of all the materialistic people who are undergoing severe tribulation, meaning severe trouble, in the struggle for existence is based on sex. Well, in other words, if you give up sex, Prabhupada said if you give up sex, already at least 90% of your problems go away. So, therefore, there's a real incentive to give up sex. Therefore, in the Vedic civilization, sex life is allowed only in a restricted way. It is for the married couple and only for begetting children. But when sex life is indulged in for sense gratification, illegally and illicitly, both the man and the woman await severe punishment in this world or after death. In this world, also, they are punished by virulent diseases like syphilis and gonorrhea. And in the next life, as we see in this passage of Srimad Bhagavatam, they are put into different kinds of hellish conditions to suffer. In Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, illicit sex is also very much condemned. And it is said that one who produces children by illicit sex life is sent to hell. It is confirmed here in the Bhagavatam that such offenders are put into hellish conditions of life in Tamishra, Andhatamishra, and Rorava. If I'm not mistaken, Rorava is a place where there are wild dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go there, those dogs bite you. But you don't die. You are just continually bitten. And it's like, it's hell. It is part of hell. There are different sections of hell.
Yeah, there's about 28 hells.
All right. You definitely don't want to go there. Yeah, so one time there was a man that saw an advertisement to go to hell. And it was like a picture of that looked like what you would call a nice place. There was a beach, and there were people that were smiling, and it was an advertisement to go to hell. So one man thought, oh well, can't be that bad, because it looks like it's like Florida, sunny. There's a beach and everyone's happy. So he uh, he desired to go to hell, and when he got there, as soon as he arrived, there were these Yamadutas, big and ugly, mean living entities. They began to beat him. And he said, wait a minute, what's going on here? I thought this was a nice place. And the Yamaduta said, that was the publicity. This is the reality. So you got to be careful about the publicity. Okay, so it says in Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, illicit sex is also very much condemned. Now, where does it say that? Let me see. Where does it say that?
Go to the 43rd verse.
43rd verse. Verse 43, okay.
I have heard from the disciplic succession that those whose families' traditions are destroyed dwell always in hell.
42 and 43.
Yeah, that's what we just read.
Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of Vedas, which recommend various fruit.
No, I think you're reading the second chapter.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
First chapter, what we just read earlier.
First chapter. Yeah, you're right. Oh, boy. Okay, first chapter, 43.
Specific 43.
43. Yeah. O Krishna, maintainer of the people, I have heard by disciplic succession that those who destroy the family traditions dwell always in hell. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Arjuna bases his argument not on his own personal experience, but on what he has heard from the authorities. That is the way of receiving real knowledge. One cannot reach the real point of factual knowledge without being helped by the right person who is already established in that knowledge. There is a system in the Varnashram institution by which, before death, one has to undergo the process of atonement for his sinful activities. One who is always engaged in sinful activities must utilize the process of atonement called prayaschita. Without doing so, one surely will be transferred to hellish planets to undergo miserable lives as the result of sinful activities. Okay, so yeah, and this verse says, O Krishna, maintainer of the people, I have heard by disciplic succession that those who destroy family traditions dwell always in hell. Well, what are family traditions? Well, they're talking about family in which they actually follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. And those who destroy such family traditions, they always live in hell. Okay, so then Now, text 29. Lord Kapila continued, my dear mother, it is sometimes said that we experience hell or heaven on this planet, where hellish punishments are sometimes visible on this planet also. That's a factual statement. There are places where it's like hell in the United States, all over the world. Purport. Sometimes unbelievers do not accept these statements of Scripture regarding hell. They disregard such authorized descriptions. Lord Kapila therefore confirms them by saying that these hellish conditions are also visible on this planet. It is not that they are only on the planet where Yamaraj lives. On the planet of Yamaraja, the sinful man is given a chance to practice living in the hellish conditions which he will have to endure in the next life. And then he is given a chance to take birth in another planet to continue his hellish life. For example, if a man is to be punished to remain in hell and eat stool and urine, then first of all, he practices such habits on the planet of Yamaraj, and then he is given a particular type of body, that of a hog, so that he can eat stool and think that he is enjoying life. It is stated previously that in the hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he is happy. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to suffer hellish life. Okay. So that's an amazing thing. It is stated previously that in any hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he's happy. Otherwise, it would not be just possible for him to suffer hellish life. Oh my God. What a terrible thing.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, how do we actually understand when we say that after death we don't have any physical body as such, right? And then only soul. So, and maybe it's a subtle body. So when we are talking about eating flesh and all those things, how do we understand and also explain other people?
Well, we get miserable bodies like a hog and eat stool.
So you're saying that after death we'll get another body just to get suffering?
If they've been sinful, yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's why it says here that, for example, if a man is to be punished to remain in hell and eat stool and urine, then first of all, he practices such habits on the planet of Yamaraj. And then he is given a particular type of body, that of a hog, so that he can eat stool and think that he is enjoying life. It is stated previously that in any hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he's happy. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to suffer hellish life. So we're in a complete state of delusion. And in hell, we think that we are happy by engaging in all kinds of abominable activities like eating stool and urine in the body of a hog. So it says, it is stated previously that in any hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he is happy. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to suffer hellish life. That is a very profound statement. that we're in complete Maya, and if we go to hell, we actually think it's an enjoyable place, although it's miserable.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually we can extrapolate by the fact that right now the body that we have is not our body, but we still think we have that body. So similarly, in the hell, if Yamaraj wants to punish, he can just give a temporary body of whatever, and we will feel that it is our body, and then we will feel the pain. You know, just like in real life, or in this material world. So, and the fact that we may be right now in the hellish condition with this body, but we're not realizing it.
Well, we're trained, see. We're trained to eat stool and urine. And once we get habituated to eating stool, then we go to hell. If a man is to be punished to remain in hell and eat stool and urine, then first of all, he practices such habits on the planet of Yamaraj. And then he is given a particular type of body, that of a hog, so that he can eat stool and think that he is enjoying life. It is stated previously that in any hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he is happy. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to suffer a hellish life. Now, that is a very profound statement. Most people think, well, if you go to hell, you're going to be burned eternally, or you're going to suffer eternally. But here is saying, yeah, you are going to suffer, but you get used to it. And therefore it says, if a man is to be punished to remain in hell and eat stool and urine, then first of all, he practices such habits on the planet of Yamaraj. And then he's given a particular type of body, that of a hog, so that he can eat stool and think that he is enjoying life. It is stated previously that in any hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he is happy. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to suffer hellish life. Have you ever heard that before? It's the first time I'm hearing that. So on Yamaraj's planet, the sinful man is given a chance to practice living in the hellish conditions, which he will have to endure in the next life. And then he is given a chance to take birth on another planet to continue his hellish life. So Yamaraj's planet is a place where if we go there, we are trained to suffer. But again, we're in Maya because we think that that type of suffering is also happiness. For example, if a man is to be punished to remain in hell and eat stool and urine, then first of all, he practices such habits on the planet of Yamaraj. And then he's given a particular type of body, that of a hog, so that he can eat stool and think that he is enjoying life. There it is. It is stated previously that in any hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he is happy. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to suffer hellish life. That is a very profound statement. So if you go to hell, you'll think that you're happy, right? But actually, you're having a horrible existence. But you're trained to enjoy eating stool and urine. And then when you're actually trained up really, let's say, well, then you leave Yamaraj's planet and you go to much lower hellish planets, and you remain in that illusory state of mind of thinking what you're doing is nice, but actually it's all abominable. And the verse itself today says, Kapila continued, "My dear mother, it is sometimes said that we experience hell or heaven on this planet, for hellish punishments are sometimes visible on this planet also." But yeah, that's a fact. If you look at what's happening in Somalia right now, you should look up what's happening in Somalia. It's hell, complete hell. Or what's happening in to the Muslims in
Palestine.
huh?
In Palestine.
Yeah. Somalia is just as bad, if not worse. So those are hells on this planet Earth. Places like Somalia and Palestine, places like that. And
Even
places in the United States also.
Ukraine, I mean,
Yeah.
3 years ago, it was a beautiful country.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know, I mean, there's no building except maybe in the main capital that's sustained in most of the eastern part. And so
Being destroyed.
Completely.
Well, that's what's happening now in Somalia and also Ukraine. Yeah.
In the Middle East.
Yeah. And in the United States also.
Mm-hmm.
In places they're just hell. So when it talks about, if a man is to be punished to remain in hell and eat stool and urine, then first of all, he practices such habits on the planet of Yamaraj. And then he's given a particular type of body, that of a hog, so that he can eat stool and think that he is enjoying life. It is stated previously that in any hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he is happy. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to suffer hellish life. That's just an amazing, monumental statement. That in any hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he is happy. Just think of what he's saying. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to suffer hellish life. It's frightening. So, in order to live in hell, you have to undergo practice for such habits of living in hell. And then you get a particular type of body, that of a hog, so that you can eat stool and think that he is enjoying life. Oh God. God forbid. It is stated previously that in any hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he is happy. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to suffer hellish life. It's terrible. It's frightening to hear these things. Okay, so I think we're over time. Are there any questions anyone has? Any questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj ji. Dharam Pranam.
Yes, Prabhu.
So Maharaj ji, so how does a conditioned soul knows that he's actually suffering or not, or he will know it only at the end of his life?
That's a good question. Well, they don't really realize that they're suffering. They first have training to suffer. It says here, if a man is to be punished to remain in hell and eat stool and urine, then first of all, he practices such habits on the planet of Yamaraj. And then he's given a particular type of body, that of a hog, so that he can eat stool and think that he is enjoying life. It is stated previously that in any hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he is happy. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to suffer hellish life. So, some people become happy by eating horrible things like lobsters and steaks and things like mum, all horrible types of food that are putrefied and smell bad, but they have become trained to like it. So you have to undergo training to have these types of tastes, like beer. Beer, it smells and it tastes like urine, but yet people drink it. You can smell beer or you can taste it. It tastes more or less like urine, but yet people get habituated to drinking it, and so human beings who are susceptible to being in ignorance, they do all kinds of abominable things, and because they're in a state of illusion, they think that they're enjoying life. Actually, Prabhupada said that sex is actually horrible, but people think it's nice. So that means they're in Maya, they're in illusion. If a man, and so in this purport today, it says, for example, if a man is to be punished to remain in hell and eat stool and urine, then first of all, he practices such habits on the planet of Yamaraj. And then he is given a particular type of body, that of a hog, so that he can eat stool and think he is enjoying life. It is stated previously that in any hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he is happy. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to suffer hellish life. This is such a profound statement. So like right now, you have people living in Palestine, and every day people are being killed there, and children are being killed, women are being killed every day. Still, people don't want to leave, although it's horrible. Well, not everybody wants. Uh, not everybody wants to leave, but most people try not to leave. Other people definitely want to leave and get away from that hell. But right now, the people living in Palestine are suffering hellish conditions. Not enough food, people dying every day by Israeli soldiers that are killing them and torturing them. All these horrible things are happening to them, and they don't give up. So it says here, it is stated previously that in any hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he is happy. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to suffer hellish life. So people living in Palestine right now, they're living in hell, but still, they think that they're doing the right thing. If people are genuinely intelligent, they leave a place like that, and maybe they'll come back after the fighting is over. But what happens is that wherever there's a let's say a overwhelming population of demoniac people, Krishna organizes a war there, and then the demons kill each other with war. So obviously, where there's places like Egypt and other places where there's suffering, they're maintained. And some people have split away from that sort of low class happiness, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And there are other people that control of those habits and have a spiritual life. So the main statement here is, it is stated previously that in any hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he is happy. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to suffer hellish life. That is an amazing statement. Okay, I think we're over time now. Any other questions anyone would like to ask? We're very fortunate here, living in Sammamish, Red Town. I mean, there are hellish conditions everywhere. And even in Sammamish or Redmond places, there are hellish, let's say, people living a hellish life. But by practicing Krishna consciousness, you can turn any place into Vaikuntha if you practice Krishna consciousness honestly. So that should be our goal. Wherever we are, we should turn it into Vaikuntha by regularly chanting and hearing lectures and eating prasadam, inviting others to have nice prasadam and festivals and all kinds of things to purify people's minds and activities and desires so that they don't have a hellish life. Hare Krishna. All good to Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Thank you, devotees. If there are no questions, then we will call it a deal for today. And if we have questions, then ask them now.
Any question online? No questions.
Okay, no questions, no answers. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Ram,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare.
Thank you, my dear devotees. Please chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And don't get trained to go to hell. You have to be trained to go to hell. And you're trained on the planet of Yamaraj. And then he gives you a particular type of body, like that of a hog, so that you can eat stool and think that you are enjoying life. Wow. And it is stated previously, this is our takeaway today, and it is stated previously that in any hellish condition, the conditioned soul thinks he is happy. Otherwise, it would not be possible for him to suffer hellish life. Wow. Okay, so you can see how happiness, low-grade happiness, is actually suffering. All right, thank you very much, and we'll continue 23 hours from now.
In the evening, Maharaj, so 11 hours.
Yeah.